Welcome to Charts Today. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Thursday, the 26th of October, comes to you from Doha in Qatar. I'm working my way back to London, and I'm just coming to you from my hotel room. And we're looking really at the big news last night is that the Nasdaq fell by 2.5%, activating this downside target. There's the thrust, and this is the downside target that was activated. And note the upside target wasn't quite met, and that was bearish confirmation that we didn't quite get to the target, and now we've got a new downside target. The slope on that target, I'm just using the standard price time factor, so it's using 0.5% of the price to 2 units of time. So that means that it falls 1% every 4 days on average on these targets. So really significant. So obviously we blew that 1% out of the water yesterday, but now this is putting us on a track of 1% fall every 4 days, 10% would be 40 days, and we're seeing here that that's taking us to just before Christmas time. That's the price, down 10% from here, which is 12,917, just below 13,000. The targets are approximate, of course, so let's just say 13,000. We've got to wait for more targets to kick in on the 60-minute chart, but for the moment, this is bad news for the Nasdaq. And there were some lead indicators for that. If we look at Apple, Apple gave this signal on the lead indicators a good couple of months ago, and in fact, I sold my Apple stock on the basis that these new targets have been generated 13% lower, 18, 19% lower. That's between December and January, and that's the targets. And we're seeing that playing through on the 60-minute chart, so we really cannot ignore these targets. That's only 3% lower, but we are below the cloud, and the lower highs, lower lows is really quite critical there. So this was kind of giving us a heads up for the Nasdaq. Of course, Apple is the biggest stock in the Nasdaq. The target was met. That was the upside target given off the thrust earlier this year. That target was given way back in March. It was met, but now we've got downside targets. Not good news for the market. So really significant there. And certainly something to watch. Now, if we look at some of the other tech stocks, we had Alphabet falling quite dramatically yesterday, the day after their results. It was quite interesting. We had Microsoft and Amazon and Alphabet reporting. There was disappointment in the market, and Alphabet fell some 9%. Now, we did have a downside target given back on the 20th of October. We did bounce back a bit, but the interesting thing is that downside target was there. It was in train. That was to 131. We blew that target out of the water, and this little mini target also given. Alphabet not getting quite to its upside targets too, which is quite key. And then we had Microsoft, and their results the night before last were seen as more positive. So consequently, we're seeing Microsoft still a very different looking chart. If we can make new highs on Microsoft, we activate a big upside target to $380, and the medium-term target to 432 is there. But sentiment in the market may well weigh heavily on Microsoft as well, given that what we're seeing. And we had results out from Meta last night. They surprised the market, and Meta was up as much as 9% in after-hours trading, did fall back, and we do have, even though we've seen that jump in price, will it be enough to deactivate these downside targets? So very interesting. A lot of volatility just occurring towards the end of the trend there, so certainly something to watch. Now, if we just look at some of the other indices, of course, we looked at the Nasdaq, the S&P future. This is looking pretty bearish. The E-mini has got a downside target of 4%. The 60-minute chart, train tracks, really clear downside targets there, so you can't ignore that. Looking at the FTSE future, that's down 2/3% today, so that's not looking good. We have diverged a little bit away from the target, but it's still hanging over us. And then the medium-term chart, we see these downside targets. The time frame's not so clear here because we have this sideways translation, but we do still have the downside targets. And if we look at the DAX in Germany, that's down 1.4%, so that's been hit pretty hard. The downside target there was given at 15,500. We're now at 14,650, so we really are seeing this move on the target train there on the daily, and we've got another new downside target just kicking in there on the 60-minute. So really quite key that that's the path we're following there. Japan down 1.5% as well. We're waiting to see activation on this downside target. If that goes lower, we will activate that target and that will turn from orange to red. And we've already got the activation on the 60-minute chart telling us that that is almost certainly going to be activated as well. That's the beauty of using the two time frames. You get a heads up. The 60-minute target is some 10% lower. So we are below the cloud there. We're moving below the cloud. Sentiment on global stock indices not looking good at all. If we look at China, the Shanghai Composite, we are seeing here downside targets as well. We have had a little relief rally, but not enough to activate that upside target. That's the buying thrust off the low, but not enough to activate that. These downside targets were all met. Watch for new downside targets, and on the daily chart, we do have downside. The Sensex in India has been more robust than most of the indices. Got some amazing upside targets here, but on that short-term chart, that's been kicking in. Target that was given way back here at 66,000 to 63,000. That's where we've gone, and another target was given. It's happened faster than that target was given, but really quite key there that we're seeing that deterioration as well. And looking at the Aussie market, downside targets here, and that's where we're tracking too. So you just can't ignore those. A quick look at the oil price. Brent crude, we were neutral this morning. It was a hard call at the open. We are down now about 1.4%. We're seeing global sentiment really weakening. As much as we've got an upside target on the medium term, we are lower on the day on the 60-minute chart. Taking a look at gold, we are seeing a slight improvement here on gold, back to just nudging the 2000 level. We did have this downside target given to 1920. What's interesting is when we move back above the activation level, that sort of deactivates the target. It's still a valid target, but we are in the deactivation zone, and we've got a new upside target to $2003. So if we break that 2000 level and hold it, that's going to be very, very significant for gold. We've got some big upside targets there for gold. And you can see here, this one has already been activated to 2,500. But this bigger one here, this long consolidation pattern will lead to a big move for gold. So that's certainly something to watch there. That's on the weekly chart. Taking a look at some of the other things, we've got bond yields, 10-year yields. We met the target. We've got this little orange downside target not activated, and a big move yesterday on that market sentiment. So really quite key there that we've got that move there, the downside target there, but then this little upside target is given and met, and it really is the upside that we're focused on at the moment. And of course, we are bullish above the cloud. And if we look at the weekly chart, that's that very big target out some many years out. That very big target is pointing to 2028, 10.5%. Now, a lot of people struggle with that, but that's what the targets are telling us. So it's really quite interesting. But markets really struggling with these results, and we're seeing a lot of other stocks making new lows. The US bank stocks all looking weaker as well. That's it for today. Until tomorrow, happy charting. Bye for now.